The Rams' number one biggest concern right now. We've got winners and losers from Week 7. That's coming up next here on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramily, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're also available over on YouTube, so if you have not yet, do us a huge favor. Join the party, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, hit that like button, and let us know. What do you think is the biggest problem with the Rams right now? My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. I've been covering LA sports for over a decade at SI, Dodgers Nation, 24/7 Sports. Now the Rams 4 Locked On. And as always, I'm joined by the Rams pre-half and post-game show host for the Rams flagship radio station, ESPN 710 LA. He's in his 8th season covering your Los Angeles Rams. He's known as the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers. You can follow him on X at Travis Rogers. And on today's show, we're doing winners and losers, horns up, horns down. We're going to talk about our biggest concerns with the Rams right now. But first, this episode of Locked On Rams is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Now, Travis, first topic today, we're going to revisit the Matthew Stafford conversation because I see some debates out there, people blaming this on Stafford and he's not playing good enough. And it's very interesting, and I think it's very complicated. You look at his numbers yesterday, 14 of 29, yes. There were some incompletions. There were some throwaways due to some pressures. He had at least 4 drops. You take those away, it's probably 18 for 26 around 300 yards. So really, when it comes to quarterback position, they always say you need 11 guys to do their job for him to do his, right? You need the offensive line. You need the receivers, the tight ends. You also need the play calling to do their job for him to have success. Not that empty backfield play to start the second half that led to the TJ Watt interception. Didn't do him any favors, and really, we haven't seen that play bear much fruit for the last few years. So it's very complicated. But I think for the most part, Matthew Stafford right now needs to step it up. He's not playing his A game, but I think he's definitely a B so far this season.
Yeah, I put it to you this way, DMAC. I have not watched the Rams at any point this season and thought the quarterback's the problem. Has he been perfect? Obviously not. Has he made some decisions that make you scratch your head a little bit? Have there been a turnover here and there that are not great? Of course there are. That's every quarterback in the NFL. I don't know if anybody's being asked to do more than Matthew Stafford is. I think that he is still one of the best arms in the league. I think that this is kind of what you get with him. He's going to take some chances. But when I watch this team, and at the end of the day, and obviously we've had more losses than wins through the first 7 weeks of the season, I'm not walking into that postgame show that I do after each game thinking Matthew Stafford's the problem. He's just not. There are a lot of things that are not up to, playoff standard, to a championship standard, mostly the talent on the team. There just isn't nearly enough of it, but I don't think he's part of the problem. The consistency is a big part of the problem. Not being able to put together 2 halves all season long, maybe outside of that Seahawks game, I think is a problem. But I think Matthew Stafford, I think your grade is about right. I think he's been a B. I always go back to our sport, DMAC of baseball. I think what you're asking him to do is, as a starting pitcher, you're asking him to go 9 innings and give up either 0 or 1 runs to win a game. That's really hard to do. If the standard is throw a shutout or lose, well, you're going to lose sometimes, right? You can still pitch pretty well and lose a game 2-1, 3-2. And I think that's what's going on, at least from the quarterback position. I don't think Matthew Stafford's the problem at all.
Yeah, I don't think he's the problem. I think he can elevate his game to another level. There's no doubt about that. I would say for the totality of the year, you could give him a B, but I also think you can make the case that he has made as many A throws or even A-plus throws as any quarterback in the league. That's how much talent Matthew Stafford has. It's just an interesting conversation because if you look at first half Stafford versus second half Stafford, it's really a tale of 2 halves, right? I mean, 5 of his 6 interceptions have come in the second half.
Yep.
He's thrown a touchdown in just 2.7% of his attempts this year. The Rams are 6-10 in the last 16 games with Stafford. In the fourth quarter against the Steelers, he went 0 for 4 with another incompletion that was waved off on that illegal contact. We talked about this before the show. That TJ Watt interception, I went back and looked at it, and because I'm still sick about this game. I'm still sick. I'm actually kind of sick in general, but like I'm still sick about this game. Mainly is, I mean, my man TJ Watt, he covered 30 feet in less than 2 seconds to make that interception. Cup was absolutely open right there on the right hash. Watt is over on the numbers. He throws the ball, and he just like a flash, like a superhero, goes in there and makes that pick. So, I mean, how many quarterbacks in the league are going to probably make that same throw? And you just got to tip your cap to a professional on the other team who's an elite player.
My co-host on the pre-half and post-game show, Kirk Morrison, who played 9 years in the NFL, said something to me after the game. We were talking about exactly that play that really resonated with me. He goes, you know that guy makes $30 million, right? They don't give him $30 million for no reason, that he's pretty damn good at what it is that he does. And he made a play. And he made a play that allows him to be the defensive player of the year, to be a guy that makes $30 million a year, to be a guy that leads the league in sacks. He is a terrific football player. And occasionally you got to kind of tip your hat to him and say, all right, good on you. Now, I think the better question is not necessarily whether or not Matthew Stafford made a bad decision or a bad throw. What the heck are they doing running that play at that part of the field at that point in the game, right? That we saw what happened a week ago when they came out. And I get it. The Arizona Cardinals and the Pittsburgh Steelers probably couldn't be any more different. But you'd had success running the ball on the ground. You saw that Darrell Henderson and Royce Freeman were having some success running the ball. And you come out and chuck it on the first play of the game, where a week ago you came out, you ran it 9 times in a row and basically put the game away on the opening drive of the third quarter. They went back to the old stuff. They went back to the things where we're going to throw it around here. And I think Sean McVay, generally speaking, is a pretty darn good play caller, but that was one that just first play coming out of the half. Let's get a little bit of distance between ourselves and the goal line. And they just didn't do it. TJ Watt made a play, and that was kind of the beginning of the end. It was and kind of going back to what I said at the beginning, D-Mac, the Rams, other than the Seahawks game, have not played 4 quarters of good football. They've had 2 here, they've had 2 there, they've had some things go their way, had some things go against them, but we really haven't seen them play 4 quarters. And the second that third quarter started, the Rams spiral started.
And that really is the issue. It's the second half. The defense wears down. Teams know that. So I think they're almost allowing any type of explosive plays in the first half. And then the second half, they know that the talent advantage that they're going to have is going to ultimately win out, right? And I think the second half really is the passing game is the issue. The running game, I mean, you could have asked for more than 30 rushes for 127 yards for Darrell Henderson and Royce Freeman there. And I think when we headed into the season, the big question is, would they protect Matthew Stafford? Well, we're getting the offensive line that we won. You're getting Alaric Jackson, Coleman Shelton, Kevin Dotson, Rob Havenstein, right? You're getting Steve Avila, right? You're getting that group. From a wide receiver core, Puka, Cup, Tutu, Higbee. I mean, that's the top 10 core right there, right? So you have a run game, you have a receiving core, you have an offensive line. Matthew Stafford, he's making big throws during big spots, but I think it comes down to play calling during certain stretches. I think when you look at this game, I mean, the TJ Watt interception, if he sees Watt, he's just going to throw a screen to Darrell Henderson. You're going to leave it to find another day. You'll probably win that game. But yeah, like I said, I mean, Cup, he drops a pass, he catches 99 out of 100 times. He makes that catch, you get a field goal, you're in a better spot right there. So I think the interesting thing about all this is that, look, this Rams team, from Matthew Stafford's perspective, it's different, right? OBJ, he caught everything in his zip code. You're not playing behind a Whitworth and a Corbett, right? An elite offensive line. I think you need better pieces up front to truly expect A results, but I still think he can give you B to B plus with a squad like this. And this defense, they leave so much to be desired. And I think in the second half, look, I mean, against the Cardinals, they had 20-0, right? Against the Seahawks, they were 23-0. So, I mean, there's a little bit of myth there, but still, for the most part, like you said, you're just not getting 4 solid quarters for an entire game.
I think it all comes together. It all kind of comes together in one big package. The offensive line, which I know for me and you was the biggest concern coming into the season, could they protect Matthew Stafford? The answer is, yeah, they have. It's been, pretty good. It's certainly been good enough, but what has happened is they don't score touchdowns in the red zone. They've been trying to kick some field goals along the way. Their field goal kicker, Brett Maher, is not successful, and it puts a tremendous amount of pressure on the offense to try to get in the end zone, and they don't have a big play team. They don't have a guy that's going to bust stuff open. As good as Cooper Kupp is, and he can make some plays here and there, This isn't Tyreek Hill. This isn't Justin Jefferson and these guys that can, take a ball 70 yards and put it in the end zone. They don't have guys like that. They're more methodical the way that they go about doing stuff. And when you're kicking field goals, it puts a little more pressure on your defense, which has been, mediocre, I guess is probably the best way to say it. And again, it comes back to the thing I said at the very top. Their margins are so small. The talent gap is not in their favor. So if all of these things don't line up really well over the course of 4 quarters, you're going to lose a game, and that's what's happening.
They have to be flawless, right? You have to be flawless with the talent they have. And we're going to continue this conversation about the biggest problem, the biggest concern with the Rams right now. Some winners and losers. That's coming up next here on Locked On Rams.
These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available, and that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Think about that time that you got the right person in the right job and what it meant to your business. It takes off, right? Think about the opposite as well. That's why it's so important that you get to the right people quickly. Here's how you do it. You add your job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to send the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions. They're going to make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you would like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses like LinkedIn Jobs is number one in delivering quality hires versus leading candidates. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right. Have you signed up for PrizePicks yet? What are you waiting for? It is one of the most fun ways to spend your football afternoon, right? You can win up to 25 times your money this football season. You just have to select 2 or more players, pick more or less from their projected stats, and place your entry, I should say. That's how easy it is at PrizePicks. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what make PrizePicks the #1 daily fantasy app. Cooper Kupp, more or less than his receiving number. More or less touchdowns for Matthew Stafford. You pick it right and you win your money. Weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. It's a Tuesday, why not? Each Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide you with even more value. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match of up to $100. Again, that's prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. That's your code as well, LockedOnNFL, for a deposit match of up to $100.
And we're off and running here on Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Special shout out to our everyday listeners. We appreciate you watching every episode, listening to every episode. Definitely be sure to subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel over on YouTube. Trying to get to 10,000 subscribers. But join the Everyday Listeners Club. Membership is 100% free, and you won't miss a thing about your Los Angeles Rams. Now, Travis, here in the second segment, we're going to pick up on that topic we're talking about, Stafford and the biggest weakness of this team so far, because it does feel like Stafford is getting a bad rap. I do want to point out that if you look at his numbers 2021 versus now, I mean, they're similar in a lot of ways. He's averaging 8.5 intended yards per attempt. That's the 8th highest in the NFL. That's the exact same average as 2021, right? His completion percentage over expectation is minus 2.3%. Only Jordan Love, Anthony Richardson, and Deshaun Watson have worse. So really, I think it's a matter of play calling, putting him in better spots to have consistent success. I'm not really worried about Stafford. I don't think he's the problem. Is he sort of a problem when he's not at his best and he's having a occasional bad interception? Yes, that's possible. Is McVay a problem with the play calling and the clock mismanagement, the way he uses timeouts? I would say yes. But the biggest problem is the overall talent. I cannot emphasize that enough. The game plan worked in the first half, right? But it's really everybody makes adjustments. The second half, the talent deficit, that's when it comes into play. And look, the reality, Travis, I feel like this team has been overachieving. You hit on rookies. You're possibly going to win 9 games in your reloading year. To me, that's a win.
Well, I think that one of the hardest things to do in any sport, and in the NFL especially, is restock the cupboard and be competitive at the same time. It's so hard to do it. You either have to do one or the other. The Rams, for the first portion of the Sean McVay era, was the F them picks era. The let's go for it. Let's just see what we can do now. And you go and you get a Jalen Ramsey. You go and you pick up a Dante. Or I should say a Fowler, right? You go out and you get these guys and you get these players that make an immediate impact in the short term. You go and you get Odell Beckham Jr. and Von Miller, and it pays amazing dividends in the short term. But at the same time, you're burning money, right? You don't have picks. You don't have the equity. Well, now they've kind of gone into the other spot where they're trying to create some equity. They're trying to find value later in the draft, which they've done. They found a Steve Avila. They found a Puka Nacua. They found a Byron Young. They found some guys that can really play in this league, and that's great. So they're restacking the cupboard or stocking the cupboard, and at the same time, they're being competitive. But the issue is still the issue. You don't have as good of players as the other guys most of the time now. It's the first time that's been true in the McVay era in a long time. I think, D-Mac, part of that we've been talking about this failure to play two complete halves is actually a really backhanded compliment to Sean McVay, because the scheme at the beginning is good enough to where the other coach, okay, I don't know what this is. Let me figure this out. Let me find a way to stop it. But after you've looked at it for a couple of quarters, it's, oh, okay, I got it. Let's take that away from him. And the Rams don't have that counterpunch because they simply don't have the talent to get it done at that point. I think that this is going to go right down to the wire. I think this is a team that is probably set it from, about week 2 or 3. This is somewhere between a 7 to 9 win team. The question is, are you going to be 7, which misses, and you're in no man's land, right? Now you're picking somewhere, 15, 16, and those 18 in the draft. Or do you get to that 9 number and you go to the playoffs and it's a great season and you see what can happen? Games like the Steelers probably push it closer to 7 than to 9, but there's still a path back.
Yeah, it's a great point, though. I mean, I haven't really heard anyone really mention that, is the fact that the game planning is so meticulous there in the first half, not just offensively, but defensively, to keep them competitive, to keep them in games. And to me, it feels like you're a couple of good players away from overcoming bad officiating, from overcoming bad plays and mistakes in the second half. That really is the difference between teams that win 10-plus games and below that, right? And I think you also have to mention, look, this is like when you go by a business and you see a sign open during reconstruction, right? They're open for business during reconstruction, right? The fact that we're even talking about the playoffs this late in the season based on how a lot of experts thought they would win 3 games for the entire year, let alone through their first 7 games. And also, like I said, sometimes I got to be the blame the refs guy, Travis. Also, sometimes I have to be blame the football gods, blame the bad luck. They've had so much bad luck this season. I mean, I just going back yesterday, how different of a conversation is this if Tutu Atwell's touchdown against the Bengals doesn't get overturned? If they don't call that timeout and allow them to get that touchdown, nullify another touchdown against the Bengals? If Kyron Williams doesn't drop that pass and it goes for an interception against the 49ers? If Darion Kendrick just pushes A.J. Brown out of bounds instead of horse collar tackling him, where he doesn't do that penalty against Deebo Samuel? I mean, there's so many times this year, the bad officiating against the Steelers, where they've really been on the wrong side of luck. At some point throughout the course of the season, you hope that's going to even out.
You ever notice how good players have a lot more good luck than the average ones?
Yeah.
Because think about who you're asking to have good luck. Tutu Atwell, Darion Kendrick, Kyron Williams. You're not asking Christian McCaffrey and Justin Jefferson and Saquon Barkley to have good luck, right? You're talking about guys that are in the middle of the pack in the NFL. And I don't mean to be disrespectful to these guys. They've had some really good moments for the Rams. But this is what we're talking about. The talent level on this team collectively is probably somewhere just below the middle of the NFL. So if you do get a bad call, if you do have a drop, if you do have a questionable play call, if something doesn't go right, then you can't fix it, right? It's like driving a car without a spare tire. If anything happens, we're stuck here. I can't fix it. They don't have, before they had 10 spare tires and an 18-wheeler following them with more parts. It would, no matter what happened, they were going to get to their destination. They don't have that anymore. This is something that is much more, the margins are so much smaller. And they just have to continue to hope that those 50-50 balls, right, that you get 51 out of them, because right now they're getting like 45 of them. It's just not good enough. They're going to have to get a little fortunate. And like I mentioned a second ago, good players have more good luck than mediocre ones.
That's a really good point. And like I said earlier, it's tough to overcome these things when you have a talent disadvantage. So, look, the good thing is you're getting valuable experience. They're still in the mix. They're a couple wins away. Look, that Packers team isn't looking good. We know they haven't had success in Green Bay, but you win one of these next two games, you're right up there close to 50% to make the playoffs. So we're going to talk about that on tomorrow's show. Just how realistic are those playoff odds? Do we have to recalibrate expectations? But
Doug, they have to win one of these two games.
Yeah.
If they don't beat either Dallas or Green Bay, or in a perfect world, both of them, I'm not terribly optimistic that they're going to find a way to 9 wins. I think that Steelers game, you and I both felt like that was the 9th win on the schedule, if you can find it. But it's not impossible. But if you lose to Dallas, and especially if you lose to Green Bay, and you go into that break at 3-6, it's a wrap. You're not finding your 6 wins in the final 7 weeks or 8 weeks of the season. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, look, Dallas, they've been inconsistent. They're beatable. The Packers are beatable. And this always happens to me, Travis. When my teams lose games they're supposed to win and I get upset with them, I need them to make it up to me, right? You make it up to me by winning a game that you're not supposed to win. Give me that box of chocolate. Give me those flowers, right? Give me something to win me back. What's that?
Say nice things to me, right?
Say nice things to me. I need the Rams to say nice things to me in the next 2 weeks. At least get a split, maybe take 2, entering the bye, and we're going to start to feel really good and change the narrative. But coming up here in our next segment, we got winners and losers, horns up, horns down. That's coming up next here on Locked On Rams.
All right. You love to go to games. I love to go to games. We all like go to games, but sometimes we forget to get the tickets a little bit ahead of time. Well, now you don't need to worry about when you have to buy tickets to your next big event, not with that Gametime app, right? Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, theater events near you. Killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from the seat, and the best price guarantee. Game takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Put that Gametime app on your phone. Easy to find, easy to buy tickets for every kind of event in your area, right? Buy tickets in seconds with just 2 taps. But you got to put that Gametime app on your phone. They have deals on tickets right up to the start of the event, even an hour after it starts. By the way, not a bad way to go about it. If you don't have to be there from the very beginning, it's the place to find your last-minute seat. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, here's what you do. You create the account on the Gametime app. You redeem the code LOCKEDONNFL. That's LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Think of being a Locked On Rams, your first listen every single weekday, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Now, Travis, here we're going to run through these pretty quick. Winners and losers, horns up, horns down from the Rams' Week 7 loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I'm starting with Alaric Jackson for our first loser. Went up against Alex Highsmith for the majority of the game. He allowed 6 pressures, finished with a pass blocking grade of 29.1. He's been quietly struggling last couple of weeks, has been dealing with some knick-knack injuries here and there. Question I have is, could it be time to start Joe Noteboom at left tackle?
Perhaps. I do feel like we've seen enough of Joe Noteboom to know what you're going to get there. I wonder if Jackson, like you mentioned, D-Mac, isn't struggling with the injury that had him miss some time earlier this year. The Rams will tinker if they feel like they need to tinker. We've seen it before. We saw Kevin Dotson slide into that right guard spot, and he's going to hold it down, probably for the rest of the season unless something unforeseen happens right there. Again, the Rams offensive line and Alaric Jackson in particular has been okay. It hasn't been great. It wasn't the unit that we saw win the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, but it's also doesn't feel like it's the reason that the Rams are struggling, or at least the only reason that they're struggling. The thing that, if you just fix this, then everything else would snap into play. I think it's league average. I think it's just about mediocre. And quite frankly, coming into the season, if you would have said you're going to have a mediocre offensive line, I think I would have taken it. And I think I would have thought, okay, with a mediocre offensive line, you're going to be around 500 or maybe a little bit below. And well, looky here, they're 3-4.
That's a great point. After what happened last year, just give me league average. You're going to feel okay about that. And then we've had continuity in chemistry. And I think Les Snead made a great deal for Kevin Dotz. I want to give him credit for that. Either way, though, I will say I have seen enough. I want a franchise left tackle. I don't know where the Rams end up in the draft. I still want to be optimistic. But if you do get in that top 10 range or top 15 range, I want to see a Joe All from Notre Dame. I don't think they'll be high enough to get Olu Fashanu from Penn State, but I think that is the key. Left tackle moving forward, edge rusher, cornerback possibly. But yeah, we'll have an entire offseason to get into that topic.
Well, that's the whole, like that, you need the quarterback, the guy that gets the quarterback, the guy that protects the quarterback, and the guy that catches it from the quarterback. Those are the 4 positions that you need. And right now they have the guy that catches it from the quarterback. They have the guy that goes and gets the quarterback. They have the quarterback, but protecting the quarterback, that's the missing piece. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. And then next, horns down, Ahkello Witherspoon. He had been playing extremely well all season, really elite status at an extremely high level. Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, they combined for 10 catches for 186 yards, 14 targets. Revisiting some of the keys to the game, that was really the big key. Can you slow down George Pickens? Can the secondary step up? Can they work on the outside? Because that's what they do. Canada, he attacks the outside. They make the catches at the catch point, right? Back shoulder fades, things like that. Darion Kendrick didn't have a good day as well. But when I talked to our friend Christopher Carter from Locked On Steelers, one thing he told me about Ahkello Witherspoon is kind of at this point of the season, he starts to regress a little bit. Mm-hmm. And this definitely was some regression there on Sunday.
Yeah, it wasn't his best game. I think there's a little bit of like he got a bad call at the end of the game. I don't think that was PI. It kind of shades the way that I feel about it a little bit. So I'm willing to give him a little bit of grace on that particular play. Again, this comes back to the general thing. I'm a broken record, right? The overall talent level on this team just isn't where it needs to be a high-level contender, to be a playoff lock, to contender for a conference championship, a Super Bowl championship. That when you look at this defense, whether it's Witherspoon or across the board, they just don't make enough plays. They don't get off the field quickly enough, often enough, right? Like we've seen this defense in the past where on the rare occasion when the Ram offense would be, not be able to do much, they get the ball right back to them. The offense would be right back on the field and they're ready to go. It doesn't feel like that very often. It feels like the Rams give up a lot of plays, a lot of drives. They get a little bit tired. They get a little bit worn down by the course of the third and the fourth quarter. And that's when you see these other teams start to pull away from them. Again, it comes back to the same issue. The talent isn't non-existent, but it's not nearly high enough where it needs to be.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely needs to be. This next one, we won't spend too much time on this one, but Cooper Kupp, a horns down. Was targeted seven times, only made 2 catches for 29 yards. To me, that was his Jerry Rice Seahawks game, right? His Jerry Rice Raiders game late in his career. So not going to falter for that. A little glitch in the matrix. But let's end on some positivity here. A little Mitchell out of half full. Horns up, Puka Nacua. Sure. This guy, 8 catches, 154 yards on 12 targets. Just the second receiver in NFL history has 700-plus receiving yards in his first 7 games. 5th-round picks rarely get 1,000-yard seasons. He's on pace for that, but he's a 5th-round pick in his rookie season. So You're seeing the yak, you're seeing the aggressive hands, the physical catches. Only player to have that kind of success his first year was Jamar Chase. So, yeah, he's been outstanding. You really could not have asked for more than Puka Nacua.
No, he's been great. He's been absolutely fantastic. If I had to nitpick at all, and let's get in the end zone a little bit more. Let's find a way to put points on the board. But that's a small one. Like you said, D-Mac, he's been terrific. He's tough. He's physical. He appears to be a very smart player. It doesn't look like he and Matthew Stafford are doing that. Well, I thought I was supposed to be over here. You thought I was supposed to be over there. There's actually been more of that with Cooper Kupp this season than there has been with Puka along the way. He's been terrific. Look, if this season ends with the Rams finishing with whatever record they have that's not in the playoffs, but you have Avila, Nacua, Young, and maybe a guy or two along the way. But give me Kyren Williams. I know he's not a rookie, but is developing into a high-level NFL player. This could be a successful season. This could be a very useful year moving forward, and Puka's near the top of that list. Like Avila just kind of showed up as a second-round pick, and okay, I'm ready to play in the NFL for the next 12 years. Let's go on day one. Puka's a little bit of found money, and it's been terrific for the Rams to see. And they did it again. They did it with Kupp a few years ago in the 3rd round, but in the 5th round, forget about it.
I could not agree with you more. If you won 3 games this year and hit on this many rookies without having a first-round pick, you could view it as a successful season. But play of the game had to have been 11:46 to play there. That catch that he made, he high points the ball, he gets cracked. Somehow he's able to keep 2 feet in bounds. He gets hit by Walton Fitzpatrick. I mean, that was an incredible catch. He's been outstanding this year. And we'll end on one more horns up. We'll just combine these 2 guys. Darrell Henderson. We'll call him DeRoyce Henderman. How about that? Just for the sake of time. They were great. I mean, you look at Henderson, he ran 18 times, 61 yards. Royce Freeman, I was so impressed by your Oregon Duck there, 12 times for 66 yards, 5.5 yards per carry. I mean, for these guys, one practice squad guy, one guy comes off the couch, has success. You got to give him a lot of credit.
Running backs aren't going to like what I'm about to say. This is why these guys don't get paid. This is why these guys don't get paid, because they just took a guy off the street and a guy off the practice squad and put 130 yards on the board. This is why these guys don't get paid. I'm not saying that they shouldn't get paid. I'm not saying that I don't have friends that are running backs. I'm saying that is the ultimate example of why that position does not get paid.
That's a good point. Hey, the yellow starburst, right? So they are. But yeah, by the way, Henderson is back on the practice squad, so we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, we'll continue some of these winners and losers tomorrow. We got a big show talking about the playoffs and the expectations for the rest of the season. But that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. And as always, you can follow the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers, on X at Travis Rogers. And until next time, whose house is Locked On Rams' house?